Hi, I'm John Feldt. It's been pretty quiet as we wrapped up July and went into early August. Looks like another quiet week across most of the nation. Now, some parts of the drought that really need rain could get a little bit of welcome rain. Other areas, not much at all. Stay tuned to this week's edition of the Weekly Water Outlook. Let's start off with today's outlook by looking at the rain that fell across the country last week. If we look across the east, we see areas in green, and that's a couple inches of rain. We see some spotty yellows, that's 2 to 3 inches of rain, and even some really heavy pockets of rain, 5 to 6 inches in parts of the northwest part of Florida and parts of the Carolinas with heavier thunderstorms. But as we get into the middle part of the nation, not really much rain at all. We see only about a half inch of rain, many spots only a couple tenths of an inch of rain. And then if we get into the Pacific Northwest and California, no rain at all over the whole last 7-day period. The percent of normal also shows the west versus the east. In the far west, we see well below normal departures of rainfall, 25% or less of rainfall over the last week. Over the east, we generally see rainfall amounts a bit above normal, 2 times or maybe 3 times normal in pockets of the heavier thunderstorms. In the middle part of the country, it's a little bit more of a mix. We have some areas above normal, some below, but I still think the areas that really need that rain, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, and Illinois, and Iowa, still predominantly below normal rainfall over the last week. Here's the U.S. Drought Monitor. We have not a whole lot of change since the last update. A core of extensive drought over the central part of the nation, and then a very persistent core of drought over a small part of the southeast U.S. right there in the central part of Georgia, which has been there for quite some time. So here's the big picture as we get into the new week here. The jet stream will be dipping over the eastern U.S., and they'll be bringing cooler and drier air into that area. Now, it's going to feel very nice over parts of the eastern U.S. It's going to be very welcome from a temperature perspective, but with that drier air, it's not going to get a whole lot of precipitation. Now, the upper jet stream will bring a front through from time to time, so there will be some lighter precipitation, and it could help some of the areas that need drought. I don't think that it will be a significant amount of rainfall. It's going to be generally fairly light. Over the far west, the ridge of high pressure breaks down. It's not going to be as intense, but still, being south of that jet stream, I don't expect a whole lot of rainfall. Temperatures could be a little bit more moderate, but we still have pockets of high temperatures and high humidity, especially over Texas. So here's some of the rainfall trends over the next week. Lots of areas of light or little or no precipitation, including the upper Midwest, once again in the Pacific Northwest, and once again over parts of Texas. But with that upper cool, showery type flow, there could be normal to slightly above normal precipitation over the Great Lakes and parts of the upper Midwest, and then scattered showers over the southeast U.S., but for the most part, light amounts of precipitation. Now, I've dashed in the blue line here. These are areas that could receive some rainfall that are in drought, and there could be some modest improvement of drought conditions in this area due to the rainfall. Now, I don't expect it to be very dramatic or drastic, but I do think we will get some precipitation in this area that will help the drought conditions a bit. The soil moisture change across the nation over the next week, you can see predominantly browns, and that's saying that we're going to have soil moisture deficits or reduction or drying of conditions. But there are some pockets of blue. In Arkansas is one area where we could get a little bit of rainfall that would help, and then in the Great Lakes region a little bit. But for the most part, it looks like we're going to continue that trend of below normal rainfall and continuing soil moisture deficits. Now, this is the time of year. You might have heard that NOAA upped its forecast for tropical activity. So I'm going to be looking very extensively, should a tropical system develop, where it's going to move. And right now we have a very strong blocking high off the east U.S. And what that's going to do is pretty much keep the eastern U.S. blocked from a landfalling hurricane, at least over the next week. Any systems that move into the Atlantic will be either curving up towards the northeast, that's that green arrow, or more likely moving across the Gulf like we've seen recently into Mexico. Now, there is an outside chance that if something would come up a little bit further north, could get into the central Gulf, it could come into an area of weakness and could get into the central Gulf. But again, that's an outside chance, and I really don't see any activity at all this week that would even bring things into this area. So the takeaway points for the weekly water outlook. Generally, once again, a quiet week. This is the third week. We've had very quiet conditions, very weak flow, very weak weather systems, nothing really organized as far as precipitation systems. There could be some modest drought improvement over the upper Midwest and parts of Oklahoma and Arkansas. It'll be limited, but it's at least something that we have that could bring some relief to the areas of drought. There could also be some modest drought relief over parts of Texas, but South Texas, again, not much rain. And tropical landfall is not expected over the next week. Now, I'm going to be issuing a lot of other information throughout the week, more details, so if you'd like to receive that free information, go to bluewateroutlook.com and subscribe. Thank you for listening to the Weekly Water Outlook. This will be updated again in about 1 week.